So we're going to talk about the global gap in BIM education and the BIM-enabled job market in the AEC sector. The presentation today is going to talk about BIM from the education perspective. When I say BIM and its adoption, the entire conversation that we're going to have today is going to be from an education focus rather than a BIM adoption focus. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover understanding BIM and its adoption globally. We're going to talk about identifying the global gap in BIM education, again, globally as well as regionally. We're going to talk about strategizing for bridging the gap in the regional divide when it comes to BIM, and building globally competent BIM graduates. So let's start with understanding BIM and its adoption. But before we start, a slight introduction about myself. I have been in the BIM industry for over 2 decades now. Started way back in the early 2000s, and over the last 2 decades, I have worked with multiple firms at a CXO level, doing BIM adoption across the world, especially Europe and North America. And about 12 years back, I started my focus in BIM education, starting with Mexico, then US and India, and now globally. So that's about me. So whenever we talk about BIM, we talk about intelligent 3D models, clash coordination, but that's really history. BIM today is less about building information modeling and more about building information management and taking a project from inception to maintenance stage, sustainability stage, and the life cycle of the project. So BIM adoption is very fast increasing. However, BIM adoption is, again, because there are early starters. North America has been early starters. So they say 80% of their projects are on BIM. Europe, 75%. Asia Pacific, or 90%. But we're talking about 2025. But the way we are seeing it right now, it might exceed that expectation as well. Because I think we've reached a tipping point right now. However, saying that, there are a lot of regional implications, like how BIM is adopted in Asia Pacific, how BIM is adopted in North America, and how BIM is adopted in Europe and Australia. And with that comes the educational implications. And the shift underscores the importance of educational institutions in preparing graduates with the necessary BIM skills to thrive in an evolving landscape, especially a global landscape. So let's talk about how we can identify the global gap in BIM education. So here are some of the things that I think is very important to point out. Educational discrepancies, where we see significant differences in BIM education across regions, with US institutions focusing on software proficiency, UK institutions on broader concepts and workflows, and Chinese institutions integrating BIM, but often lacking access to the latest software, and on purpose. It's not that they lack the money to do it. It's just they want it locally. So I'm just generalizing here, but for the sake of a 20-minute presentation, I have to. Research findings in a 2023 study, it highlighted that these discrepancies call for a more uniform approach to BIM education in order to bridge the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge, and so that we can align educational programs with industry needs. And that's very crucial because we have projects where the architects are in Europe, the engineers are in North America, and the project might be in Southeast Asia. So, and if they are not aligned in terms of how they're using BIM and how they're learning BIM to adopt into that project, it's going to be very difficult. So one of the things that can help, and it's sort of helping to an extent, but there's a sporadic adoption, and that's the embracing of open BIM. And I'm not going to go too deep into what open BIM is because I'm sure so many people are going to talk about it during the event. But I think from a global BIM education perspective, yes, we got to focus on multiple software platforms when you come to different regions in the world. But open BIM might be that glue which binds everything together. And if I do a SWOT analysis of open BIM and or BIM in general, BIM adoption, the strength would be it would lead to a better outcome in terms of project management and the overall project health. The opportunity, as I was pointing out in the previous slide, is integrating open BIM standards so that we can get into more international collaborations. The weakness is the disparities in BIM education and access to software across regions. Now, once again, open BIM can help with that, but that's going to take some time. And the threat, and this is what the entire conversation that I'm having tries to address, is there's a rapid technological advancement that's happening in this BIM space, and it's outpacing the educational or the academia who are trying to fill in the skill gap, and we've been seeing that over the last 10 years, and especially now. So, what can be those strategies that can help bridge the regional divide? We can talk about curriculum updates for different regions, and while we can talk about training North American students in all the software that's available in the global market, but there are certain software which are predominantly getting used in North America, and as sad as it may be, we need to focus on those as well for the students to get employable. And same goes with other parts like Revit in North America, ArchiCAD in Europe. And again, that's based on regional popularity, industry relevance, and education has to lead to not only jobs and employability, but also the usability of those resources in various projects. So what can be the helpful means of doing it? Case studies. The students can go through case studies. Student staying in, say, Dubai, can talk about a sustainable infrastructure project that's happened or is happening in Europe, so that the exposure is slightly more global. We can talk about doing simulations that might allow students to experience diverse applications of BIM across the construction environment. But most effective might be practical experience, where we can give exposure to global projects and simulations that can prepare students to handle projects effectively when they're working on a global stage, where the stakeholders might be present globally. Industry and academia collaboration, and that's been what I've been doing over the last several years, establishing partnerships with international construction firms and the academia and global and collaboration to provide students with valuable insights into specific BIM challenges and best practices across regions. And when you do that, when for example, there's a Michigan State University BIM curriculum that's been launched in March this year, which, to the latest knowledge that I have, has students from about 15 different countries. And when they interact and build a network, that's going to spread, and that's how the the collaborations will be better achieved. Now, building globally competent BIM graduates. So, how are we going to do that? What exactly are we going to do? Do we need to do? We need to get students to have proficiency in various software, whether it be regionally prevalent software or globally prevalent software, or both. And when we talk about software diversity, we're going to talk about training in multiple software platforms, again, to increase versatility and employability. When we say versatility, it goes beyond employability to usability. To give you an example, I can have a graduate who's learned who's gone through a regional BIM program in UK, and then has to do a project in collaboration with a firm who is in US and another firm who is in China. That person is going to have a bit of a challenge. So that's versatility. That's the versatility that I'm talking about. Taking students through simulations and taking students through case studies and training them on various platforms and processes that are used across the world, which brings me to continuous learning. And because if we know that's how software companies are across the OEMs, they would have an update each year. And sometimes they would be just basically superficial changes. Sometimes they can be a real change, like moving from a software-based model to a platform-based model, which I think Autodesk is trying to adopt. So we need to constantly adapt our training and education to those changes that are happening in the global stage, which is what this slide talks about: multicultural communication skills, where we talk about fostering strong communication and collaboration skills alongside cultural awareness to prepare graduates for a globalized workforce. Teamwork across continents, I think I've touched upon that, and effective communication. Developing these skills ensures graduates can navigate cultural differences and work effectively in multicultural environment. I will give you a small example. People from the subcontinent do not like saying no. Whereas it's like, can we submit this on Friday? The answer always is going to be yes, even if that means working 18-hour shifts. So be it. Whereas not the same in, say, if I'm dealing with another firm in New York. If they can't do it, they say I can do only 80% by Friday. So it sounds silly, but that is very true. And we've got to work in conjunction with all these different types of cultural variances across the world. Problem solving with a global perspective, where we talk about encouraging a problem solving approach that considers diverse construction practices and regulations to navigate complex BIM projects. It's just of how much concrete versus wood versus steel we use in construction projects varies between Europe, Asia, US, Africa, significantly. So we've got to train students on those challenges as well. Equip graduates to tackle technical challenges and adapt to the unique requirements of projects around the world. Again, platform, software, and the different OEMs who are operating and selling different software, and hence locally, and hence the local AEC workspace utilizing those more than others. And again, when we talk about global perspective, this approach enhances their ability to contribute to global projects. So we talked about proficiency in OpenBIM, but what we should, in my opinion, we should educate students about OpenBIM standards and practices to ensure they are capable of working in diverse multi-software environments. We talked about versatility and employability, and when proficiency in OpenBIM might enhance the graduates' versatility and employability in a global AEC industry. And understanding OpenBIM principles might allow graduates to leverage the collaborative power of BIM to its full potential. So in conclusion, what have we sort of touched upon? We've touched upon bridging the academia and industry gap. So by aligning educational programs with industry needs, educational institutions can bridge the gap between academia and the job market. Preparing BIM-ready professionals, graduates equipped with globally relevant BIM skills, multicultural communication abilities, and a problem-solving mindset might be better ready to thrive in the AEC sector. And a future outlook where we keep on investing in BIM education and prepare a generation of professionals who might shape and connect an efficient BIM AEC landscape across the globe. So that's what I want to talk about. But the most important part is, how do we bridge the academia and the industry gap? So this is just a start. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll meet in September this year. Thank you.